Yes, and welcome to our morning report on day 5 of the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race. And this is the magnificent 78-footer Oroton Drumfire, having just finished across the line. So 32 boats have now finished. 62 boats are still racing, and 21 yachts finished from yesterday afternoon when Smuggler crossed the line in 10th position in our afternoon report. But Oroton Drumfire here, Philip Neal the skipper, Will Vickers the owner, and they've just completed their journey on day 5 morning, and alongside me, the voice of the race, Peter Shipway.
Yes, good morning, Gordon. Well, a lot's happened overnight, and the handicap prize up for grabs still. It's going to be very close. It all depends on this river behind us, whether the breeze can come in and bring some of the smaller boats home. But at the moment, one of the smallest boats in the fleet, Crux, the little 34-footer from Sydney, Carlos Ados, two-hander, is out there. He's well north of Tasman in strong northerly conditions, but it's going to change to the south, and it's going to make it hard for him to get home. But they've put in an incredible effort, as have a lot of the smaller boats.
Well, let's talk of some of those other smaller boats, because you've got the New Caledonians, BNC Minette, and also Min River, the other double-handers. So the double-handers are absolutely performing out of their skins.
Yeah, they're on the top 4 on the handicap list at the moment. I'm still favouring BNC Leon. I think they've been becalmed for a while. They've finally picked up speed. They're only doing 2.6 knots, but they're doing 3.5 miles to go. They've got to get in by 1:45 Hobart time to beat Bacchanal on time. And at the moment, there's a bit of breeze starting to drift in the river. Now, Leon is a very interesting boat. If we talk about that now?
Yes, definitely.
Well, she was a JPK 1080, 10.8 metres or 35 feet in length. And she's in the river firmly. She finished second in 2015 to balance as Courier Leon. And she's had an incredible run down. They've pushed her very hard, and she will be hard to beat. But speaking of Bacchanal, who's put in a mighty performance, clubhouse leader, as I say, and she arrived early this morning.
And this footage, courtesy of Gordon Bray from the Grand Chancellor Hotel. I was up just after 6 a.m. this morning, Peter. And
couldn't sleep, or?
Yeah, that was the problem again. I walked past your door, I heard the snoring, and Bacchanal over the line, and that's a tremendous performance by them.
Mighty performance.
And they are the clubhouse leader now, so it's up to those two-handers. This is some of the footage they supplied in the conditions where they were able to ease sheets off the Tasmanian coast.
That would have been
footage.
yesterday. Absolutely flying along. Very good crew. Shane Guinario from Doyle Sails is one of the principal drivers on the boat, and probably the sailing master for Ron Epstein. Disappointed last year when they broke their boom in a good position, but boy, they're in a good position now. And I think if not, they'll probably win their division. And they're still in the position to take overall honours, but it all depends on this wind in the river.
Yes, well, earlier we sent Nick Glover, who's the Hype TV cameraman, and he went out on one of the Sentinel ribs. Now, these boats are amazing. They are a partner of the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia. They're built up the river here, Peter, at Derwent Park, high-speed, multi-purpose workboats, and Nick went out to catch up with Oroton Drumfire, and yeah, he produced some spectacular pictures, but they are a real machine. They are used all over the world, the Australian Defence Force, the Royal New Zealand Navy, global defence forces, right round. And look at the difference, Peter, for Oroton Drumfire. They were actually going backwards when they tried to close on the finishing line, but this is earlier.
Yeah, that's pretty pleasant, but as the closer they got to the finishing line, the more the breeze died, and they just agonisingly short for a long period of time. But what a beautiful sight, what a beautiful boat coming up the river on a rather cloudy Hobart morning, but they've got the job done, and a magnificent vessel.
Yes, Will Vickers, formerly captain of the first 11 at the Cranbrook School. He took them to a premiership as an all-rounder, and a fabulous performance there by Oroton Drumfire.
What were his best bowling figures, Gordon? Did you know?
Well, no, the best bowling figures actually came from Troy Warfield. He was the spearhead of their attack. But a great effort there. And there was a very good friend of yours, Mark Patterson, in the first 11 as well. He was a pretty handy player who went on to represent New South Wales in Sheffield Shield cricket.
And in rugby.
Yeah, that's
Anyway, we're talking sailing.
That's
Well,
right.
How'd you get
Stick
onto
to
that?
it. Yeah. So Bacchanal is the leader. And let's now go to the tracker, Peter. I think we need to update with the IRC standings.
Yeah, the IRC standings, well, we've still got Crux leading, but that's the boat that everyone's watching, and certainly the boys on Bacchanal are watching, BNC Minette Leon from New Caledonia. And she last raced in 2017 as fully crewed. She won Division 4 in the Hobart, and she set a record that still stands for yachts under 11 metres. The fastest time, it took her 3 days, 3 hours, 22 minutes and 9 seconds. But at the moment, she'd like to be doing a bit of that speed, but she's slowly getting there, but it's agonising progress.
So nearest rival then in Storm Bay at the moment is Min River. If we can actually go to the IRC standings, we'll see exactly how close this is, and you can analyse this for us, Peter. That's the IRC standings, and that doesn't look.
No, I think we're not on the right track there. We've got to go to IRC. Anyway, we'll come to that in a moment when the machine warms up.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll leave that for the moment, Gordon, but
Yeah.
I can tell you that Crux is leading. The wind's in the river. This is good news for BNC Minette, but not good news for Bacchanal. The breeze is in the river, and it looks like the sea breeze or the southerly is forecast. They might start. Is that the John Garrow? She's almost at the Garrow. There's the John Garrow Shoals light there. Leaves that to port. So she's got a couple of miles to run, and she's got to get in by 12:45, and the time here is, so that's 2.5 hours. So at the moment, things are looking good to become the first winner ever from New Caledonia.
And the first winner ever in the race of a two-hander, Jan Regal and also Michelle Canpar, the two New Caledonian sailors. Peter, you've talked a bit about their background. Jan, he was actually met Michelle back in 2015, and they met at 6 o'clock in the morning when Jan was actually cleaning the hull of Michelle's boat, this particular boat. And he said, "Who is this crazy man? Why don't you come to Hobart with him?" Well, he did in 2017 when they were fully crewed, but they finished second in the Hobart race. This boat finished second overall in the Hobart race in 2015.
Well, the other boat that's close to is Min River, another double-hander from New South Wales, Jun Lin and Alex Lawson. Now, he is the gun double-handed French sailor. He was aboard this exact boat when they got second in 2015, and he's regarded as one of the gods of short-handed sailing in France. Comes from Lorient, and he has been an incredible sailor. He's won the Solitaire de Figaro, which is the holy grail of single-handed sailing. He won it this year after 20 years of trying, and at the moment Min River is just in the river, but they've got very light progress.
We
light
can
winds.
go to the standings, Peter.
Yep.
Now we've sorted that out. It's BNC Minette. Crux, as you mentioned, is still north of Tasman, so they've still got a fair way to go, 77 miles. But BNC Minette is within the shadows of the finishing line now. And where is Min River? It looks as though they just haven't quite entered the Derwent River at the moment. They're just at 1 nautical mile southeast of the Iron Pot.
Yeah,
so that's going to be tight.
There's one word that describes this race as a overall. I mean, there's horrendous, lucky, unlucky, but there's one word that describes this whole race to define the winner, and that is weather. It's weather. Now,
unpredictable.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can sail the best race of your life, but still not win. It's just the weather that is kind to the winning yacht. But you make your own luck, I believe. And these little double-handers, they got through the hard part, and now they've got a really good, well, not a really good wind, but down the east coast of Tasmania, they had terrific breeze yesterday, and that's what's brought them into handicap calculations. And here's little BC. Well, she's doing it okay. She's got probably doing following breeze, She's probably doing about 4 to 5 knots there. Anxious looks all around from the dock, from competitors, from supporters. And this is interesting the way they've got this rig set up. They've got, now this is, a lot of these boats, these modern boats don't have spinnaker poles. They were the old age. When we raced, we had spinnaker poles. But here she is with an asymmetric kite with a pole poled out to windward of the port side and the mainsail out to starboard. You don't often see that in modern boats, but a lot of these double-handers do this rig so they can run square or run flat down the track. Normally, if you don't have it, you've got to zigzag quite aggressively down the track, but she can get the pole back, the spinnaker out on the windward side, obviously, and she's running straight towards the finishing line.
And what a moment here for Michel Cantat, former world windsurfing champion in 1987 and 1990. He campaigned for the 1996 Olympic Games in the Mistral sailboard, and his co-skipper, Jan Rigal, well, as a youngster he sailed Optimus dinghies in Tahiti. But this will be a sensational result for New Caledonia and also the French nation, with these two wonderful sailors having done a brilliant job in what is an outstanding boat, a proven performer in the Rolex Sydney Hobart.
I'm going to say if she wins, she'll become the first French-New Caledonian yacht to win this great race. Eric Tabali, the great legendary Frenchman, he gained line honours in 1967 on Penduic 3, when the handicap winner was the little boat from New Zealand, Chris Bazaide's Rainbow 2. But here we go. She's got a nice little bit of breeze now. It looks as though it's strengthening a bit, but she's only a couple of miles from the finish now, and victory in her sights.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? And this boat actually won the Fastnet race for its former owner, Jerry Tronceau. So there's so much history with this boat as she's closing on the finishing line now, and she's in probably a mile from the finishing, mile and a half.
Doing about 4 to 5 knots. That's all she needs to do, but there's still a few challenges coming from behind Min River. She's only doing 1.4 knots, poor old Jung and Alex out there. It's a tough place, but the boats have slowed down in the bay. Love and War's doing 4.9 knots. Crux is flying along at 5.7 knots, but she's way north of Tasman Island.
Well, as we mentioned, Bacchanal is the clubhouse leader, but it looks to be, Peter, only on sufferance.
I'm here with Tom Barker, navigator from Bacchanal, the American entry, Ronald Epstein's American entry that we've heard a bit about this year already, including a new addition on the boat, the pie oven. How many pies did you consume this Sydney Hobart?
How many pies? Well, its specialty is the breakfast bacon and egg pie, so that was every morning. Doesn't matter, bashing into 25 knots, drifting around Bass Strait. There were 10 bacon and egg pies in the oven ready to go sometime in the morning. Good way to wake up.
Fantastic. Ron made sure you were well fed this year.
Yeah.
But you're the navigator on board. Can you describe to us what are the plans and how do you make the decisions that the crew, where the boat goes essentially for the race?
Yeah, sure. It's really interesting having been doing this race now over the last 20 years, just the changes of making those decisions. The amount of information and data that we have now is incredible. I mean, with things like Starlink on board, we've got access to all of the yacht tracker, plus the accuracy of the forecast grid files or the wind files is quite amazing. So it's really about keeping track of the data, the information at hand, trying to digest and understand that really quickly and put it together in a way that the sort of afterguard of the crew can make those decisions. So it's not always right. The data's not always right. You get a forecast and it's not what you're experiencing at the time, and so there's still that judgment that comes through. But I don't know, I guess it's part of the fun. It's just very different to what it used to be when it was a thermometer in a bucket of water to see what the temperature of the ocean was.
Yeah, well, very exciting news here with BNC Mynet from New Caledonia, the double-handed entry closing on the finishing line. and these splendid pictures courtesy of Sail Media, James Bury. And James is the nephew of the great Brian Bury, Peter. Brian Bury, now in his early 90s, a legend on the Nine Network, is watching the coverage right at this moment. So a cheerio to you, Brian, in Sydney. But yes, your nephew is doing a splendid job here with Wave Media and our drone pilots, who are skilled sailors in their own right.
Well, big cheerio to this boat. She's almost there. There's the finishing line in her sights firmly now. That's looking towards the finishing box at Castray Esplanade. And not a great deal of breeze, but you can see what they've done with this spinnaker, and a lot of the two-handers do it with the spinnaker pole. They get this a pole right back, they can run deep, and she's running at about, probably 4.5 knots or so. Not great speed from what she did yesterday afternoon when she was running at probably 12 to 15 knots plus. But anyway, they're almost there.
Okay, that's the RV Investigator, the CSIRO vessel on the right-hand side there. That's where they're heading. That's where the finish is, at Castray Esplanade. And Peter, now joining us is Jack McCartney, who was the sailing master on board Celestial V70, the defending overall handicap winner. Jack in his 11th race this year, and he knows all about these fluky conditions, because they had an agonising time, Jack, yesterday morning, early on, just after 5 o'clock. But this is excruciating for the sailors at the moment in these conditions.
Yeah, it sure is, Gordon. But it's all part of the race. The Derwent's, it's a race within the race, and you've got to expect the unexpected in the Derwent. So it's just all part of the game.
Well, you hope to get from Tasman to the finishing line in maybe 3 hours, but it took a lot longer for you guys yesterday morning.
Yeah, it sure did. We parked up off Tasman Island for a couple of hours. We were actually running down the coast in doing 20 knots, and then ran into basically no wind and sat there for a couple of hours. It was quite spectacular, actually. Beautiful look at the coastline yesterday, Arvo. And then, the afternoon before that, and then, coming up the Derwent, just every time we got through a gust, we'd end up in another lull, and the further up the river we got, the less wind we got, and we ended up drifting up the Derwent, and that's just part of it. So we were well aware that was coming, and we just had to wiggle our way through, and it took us a number of hours, and it was tough going, but such is life.
And Jack, what about this performance by BNC Mynet from New Caledonia? Possibly the first double-handed winner of the Rolex Sydney Hobart. Tell us about that, the magnitude of this performance.
Oh, it's huge. To make it through those first couple of days as a two-hander is a great effort, and I've felt it's just a matter of time until a two-hander wins, and I think it's fantastic. It's a huge part of the fleet since they've come in over the last few years, and I think it's fantastic and a great performance to make it through those tough days and to come home. Incredible performance.
Jack, it's Shippo here. How bad were the first couple of days? And obviously you handled them pretty well, but it was pretty horrendous out there.
Hey, Shippo. It was pretty yuck. Yuck was the word that I was using. It wasn't overly windy. It was 25 knots to 30 knots. I think we saw maybe a bit over 30, but the sea state was terrible, and it was very ongoing. It actually reminded me a lot of 2021. And it was a bit longer in terms of how sustained the southerly was and the sea state. So, full credit to everyone that's made it through, and particularly the two-handers. I think to get through that is a great performance. But as for us, we had a great team, great boat, and we liked those conditions, and we got through it pretty well, but obviously had a tough time up the Derwent.
Yes, well, what a wonderful moment here for Jan Rigal and Michelle Cantar. The JPK, this 35-footer. It's been a long time, Peter, since we've seen a boat of this size victorious. I think we have to go back to Illusion, back in the 80s, a 35-footer representing Victoria.
Yeah, 1988, the Little Davidson 36-footer, basically the same size of Yacht. She won, what's that, 12 plus 20, 37 years ago since a little boat has won, and it's terrific for the race. I know, disappointing for the bigger boats perhaps, but I mean, to see a small boat that has showed that they can do and win this race, it's been hard, but as we see them just coming quietly to the finishing line now, I think that Min River is probably the only boat that could upset the apple cart here.
Yeah, Jack, how do you see it panning out? Do they look as though they're in the box seat now to take this, depending where and what happens with Min River?
Yeah, it looks that way, Gordon. I think there's wind in the Derwent, so if they can creep along, it looks like they're in good shape. The Bacchanal guys did a fantastic job as well, and obviously being the clubhouse leader, and a great team on board. They've been very consistent all year, so it'd be disappointing for them. But again, for the two-handers to get through, and they're getting down the river with a little bit of breeze, they're in good shape.
And Crux is northeast of Maria Island at the moment. They are actually leading on IRC on handicap, but there's still a long way to go for them. So do you still give them an opportunity looking at the weather that's coming up for the rest of today?
Yeah, I think it'll be tough for them. I think there's a southerly front coming through, so that'll hurt their chances of getting around the corner and being in good shape for the overall win. I think any time you're going upwind, then it makes it tough to win overall, particularly in that last little bit. So it all depends on when that front comes through for them.
Jack, you've been with Commodore Sam Haynes for a number of years, victories last year and then previous to that on the other Celestial, the TP52. What's the program now for the Celestial team?
Yeah, I've been with Sam since 2021. We've had a great run the last 5 years. Fantastic team. Sam's an awesome owner and obviously a legend in the sport. So I'm not sure what's coming up. He said last year, no, never again, but maybe. So is he going to do it maybe again? I don't know. But at this stage, we don't have any plans for next year.
Maybe you should jump back in the 18-footers, Jack.
No, I'm too old, Chippo. It demands so much of your time. I don't think I can handle it. I love the boats and I love the place and the people, but I think I've done my time there.
Well, the 18-footers have had a huge influence on the Rolex Sydney Hobart. You've only got to look at someone like Ian Murray, who's registered his 11th line honours victory. But these guys are also small boat sailors, Jan Rigal and Michel Cantin, in this 35-footer from New Caledonia. And there's the finishing line ahead. You can see the Empress Towers and the Investigator, and that big cruise ship is the World. That's where you can actually buy a condominium and have a floating apartment and sail around the world. And Australia's richest woman, Gina Reinhardt, has a penthouse on that boat. And there's a couple of famous golfers on board as well, including Ray Floyd, a 4-time major winner. But wow, Jan Rigal and Michel Cantin in this 35-footer, they are about maybe a kilometre from the finishing line, Peter. You can see the yellow marker buoy just in the middle on the right-hand side. That's how close they are to possibly taking out the overall prize, the Tattersall Cup, in the 80th edition of the Rolex Sydney Hobart.
The finishing line was getting further and further away now for them, but yeah, it's slow progress, probably 4 to 5 knots at best, but she's got their biggest asymmetrical spinnaker out, but set in a symmetrical fashion with the pole. And the good news is for her that there's breeze, and I expect this breeze probably to get a bit fresher. So some of the other boats that are doing only 1 or 2 knots back in the pack, like Min River, she's not in the river yet. She's only doing 1.4 knots. Midnight Ramblers put in another outstanding performance as well. But we're just talking to Jack McCartney from Celestial V70. They will win their division, Division 0, which is terrific. And then Bacchanal, who we spoke to Tom Barker, the navigator, they'll win Division 4. They can't be beaten there. And then Division 3, I think, will go to a really good effort from KD1, Joe de Kock from New South Wales. This boat has performed exceptionally well. They've been there or thereabouts all through the race, and Tenacity was second. Boat John Laurie from Tasmania. That is a very fine performance. And Team White Wave, they are finished as well. So KD1, Tenacity and Team White Wave are the top 3 place getters in Division 3. And then I think we go to Division 2, and MRV will be the winner there. Damien King from Victoria in the big Frères 66. She was being there or thereabouts throughout the whole race, enjoyed the fresh upwind conditions. Back to black, Sean Langman at times yesterday looked as though he could take it overall, but it got a bit light for him finishing the race. And then Utspar, Bruce Taylor, yet again another divisional prize, third in Division 2, IRC Division 2.
Bruce in his 44th Rolex Sydney Hobart. He knows what to expect in Bass Strait. He lives down.
If he doesn't by now,
he lives down at Flinders and has a beautiful view of Bass Strait. But Jan Rigal and Michel Cantat from New Caledonia, the double-handed entry.
You can see the French flag flying proudly off the backstay below the Rolex competitors' flag. And not much they can do but just enjoy the scenery. And the sails there, they've just got the mainsail, the full mainsail at the back, obviously. These well out. They're running pretty flat, pretty square to the wind. As I said earlier, with that setup, with the pole, they can square the pole right back and run pretty flat, almost in the direction that they want to go. And some of the modern boats don't have the pole, and they've got a tack downwind. They've got to jibe. But there's the finishing buoy, the yellow buoy. You can just see that off to starboard on the bow of the Investigator. The Investigator, that's the name of the big ship there. That's the finishing buoy. They'll leave that to starboard, and they're only a couple of minutes away, I would think, from finishing.
Yeah, and on the helm at the moment is Michel Cantat. He looks after the helm and also the trim, but what a moment for this boat. Jan Rigal is the navigator and also bow.
It's interesting to note, Gordon, people think because they're a double-hander they get a better rating. They don't. They don't get a better rating at all. It's the same rating as if they were fully crewed. And the advantage of two-handers against fully crewed is that really the only advantage that, if you look at it this way, is that double-hander can use, or allowed to use, autopilots. They take into account that it's with only two guys on board, they need some assistance. But to counter that, in tough conditions or in any conditions for sail change, they've only got two guys that can do it. And they've got to navigate, they've got to cook. So the fully crewed boats have got crew obviously to do all that. So that's where the balance comes. Two-handers with an autopilot, fully crewed with fully crewed, as the name suggests. And it's much easier to race boats fully crewed because you've got your mates to help you to do the cooking, to bag the sails, to do the navigation, to do everything on the boat. But with a two-hander, you've got to do it basically all yourself. One guy probably looks after the navigation, one other guy looks after the helm and the sail setting. So it's hard work. It is very hard work on a two-hander. Having never sailed one, I can only imagine. I mean, I've sailed a lot of fully crewed boats, but these guys, and especially the European guys out of France and Spain, they are very dedicated to the cause. They've got schools over there that teach them to do double-handed sailing. And that's why a guy like Rupert Henry goes overseas each year, each northern summer. He's got a boat over there, a class 40, to learn the skills, to upskill himself. And that's why he's been so successful here in Australia.
Well, you spoke of the cooking, and I think that's been their secret weapon, Peter. They have a little oven, and they've been having homemade French cuisine, sugar pork with rice, lasagna, pasta bolognese, carrot and chocolate cake, and you can also throw in crepe Nutella. So they have eaten very well. They're all smiles at the moment. That's Jan Rigal on the left, and the former world windsurfing champion, Michel Cantat.
Just having a look at the trim now, but not much to look at. There's as I said, the tricolour, the French flag flying proudly off the backstay, and this boat will create, if she does win, will create history in more ways than one. First French boat to win, first double-hander to win overall. It had to happen, and remarkably, the Fastnet race this year, the other Rolex Fastnet race, another Rolls-Royce 600-mile race, was won this year by a double-hander. Now it looks almost certain that the Rolex Sydney Hobart race for the first time is going to be won by a double-hander.
Yes, well, the nearest danger is Min River. Still hasn't entered the Derwent River. They have a better handicap. That's Zhang Lin and Alexis Loisson. So don't write them off, but certainly this boat, BNC Mynet, representing New Caledonia, just 100 or so metres now from the finishing line in the 80th edition of the Rolex Sydney Hobart.
They've got a Min River's got to finish about an hour behind this boat, and they're not in the river and doing 1.4 knots, so highly unlikely that Min River can win this. But Crux still leads, and she's still thundering along outside down the east coast of Tasmania. This little 34-footer, another double-hander.
Yeah, well, it's, as Jack McCartney said, it's all down to that southerly change as to whether she can pull it off Crux. But you've got to say this boat now is in pole position to take out the 80th edition. And I'll tell you what, it's been a mini French Revolution. The 80th edition, La 80 course du Yacht. Will they be the first two-handed crew ever to win the Rolex Sydney Hobart? We started with double-handed back in 2021 after COVID. We missed 2020, and then in 2022, the double-handed boats became eligible for the overall prize. And now they are literally within metres of the finishing line. BNC Minet from New Caledonia.
That's the inner finishing mark. They leave that to port, and the outer one they leave to starboard. She's got probably 100 metres to go. Breeze is not super fresh, but it's fresh enough to get them home. What a sight that is. What a great view from overhead as this little boat, this little 10.8 metre JPK design, is certainly going to gain victory for France, and for the first time in this great race.
Yes, and Gino Nezic, the late Gino Nezic, who skippered Illusion, the 35-footer, back in 1988. He'll be watching somewhere up in the sky, I'm sure, as this French boat closes on the finishing line. Just 75 metres remaining now. Kim Jagger actually bought Illusion later on. He couldn't take part this year. He sailed over 30 races, the principal of Sydney Boys High. But wow, what a performance by this little boat.
They will know. They'll have their computers running like we do here, the tracker. They'll see the tracker, they'll see the standings. They will know, and that's probably almost a victory wave.
BC Minet from New Caledonia is over the line in the 80th edition. What a sensational performance. A stupendous performance by these two outstanding sailors. A former world windsurfing champion in Michel Cantar, his co-skipper Jan Regal, and they just can't believe it, Peter. The whole waterfront here in Hobart is overjoyed.
Well, now the work begins. The two of them have got to pack the boat up. They need to get a shore crew out there to help them, but they'll be tired but elated. It's been a rugged race, rugged start, and then an exhilarating run yesterday, and overnight there's the big spinnaker pole. You can just see the advantage that had given them to be able to run deep and run square. They've got to get the spinnaker down, the mainsail will come down, and then they'll come to, I would think, a pretty warm reception here in Kings Pier and Constitution Dock. I don't know whether she's a little boat, maybe she'll go in the dock. I don't know whether she'll go actually in the dock, but a lot of the smaller boats in previous years have gone into the dock. But we'll see. She'll be with us in about half an hour's time, I would think.
And when you think about it, Peter, it's a huge effort. They had to sail the boat down. They sailed it double-handed, 1,000 miles. It took them 8 days. And then they've got to sail it back again after all the celebration into cyclone season. So they reckon they've had it tough coming down here. It could get a lot worse going home.
I think if you go home as a Sydney Hobart race winner, I think it wouldn't matter what the conditions are. You'd be pretty happy with yourself.
Okay, well, yeah, that's just superb. Let's now get back onto where we were.
We've lost track here.
Waiuna, yes. Waiuna, Hilary Arthur. Now, they had some splendid weather off the Tasmanian coast yesterday afternoon. Just to give you an idea of what it was like, let's join Hilary on board.
So we are 30 miles and about 3 hours from Tasman Island. Here is our hero Hills on the helm. She just got 16.8 boat speed, the little speed demon. Here is Todd trimming the mane. It's very grey and gloomy out here. It's egg hour. But we're all smiles on board. We're having a great time.
Yes, well done, Hilary, Arthur and Wayuna. And yeah, another boat that really was in big contention, Peter, to take the overall prize yesterday morning until they round Tasman Island was Callisto.
Yeah, impressive boat, impressive crew, and great to see those overseas competitors coming here. But it was always going to be, if the weather, right from the start, the weather model said that a little boat would win. I think we said that in early days, that if they could hang together, a little boat would get there. But Callisto, she did perform very creditably, and hopefully we'll see them back here again next year.
Okay, well, let's hear from the owner and skipper of Callisto.
It was every bit the great race that was advertised. From the start in Sydney Hobart all the way through an unbelievably unpredictable trip across Storm Bay and then up the Derwent. You know, I think at one point we went from 0 knots of breeze to 25 knots of breeze in under 30 seconds. So you had to be on your toes from start to finish. I couldn't be happier with this crew or the performance that they turned in. I mean, these guys gave 110% from start to finish. I'm just incredibly proud to be a member of the team.
That was my first Sydney to Hobart race, so it threw everything at us. So I'm tired, but really fulfilled and happy. I loved it. My favourite part was this morning. It was going around the organ pipes, because that has been a personal dream of mine for a really long time. So it was just amazing to see that. I've seen photos of other people going around them for so many years and watched it, so to have that myself was amazing. My least favourite was smashing into some massive waves and getting knocked about upwind. I was dreaming of when we could put a spinnaker up.
You have a GP42? Is it a GP42?
So we had a GP42, we sold that boat, and now we have a Carkeek Fast 40 that we're getting ready for Cows Week, the 200th Cows Week next summer. And so that's the next goal for this squad.
Are you going to bring that boat down to Hobart as well, or is that not on the schedule?
I am not doing the Hobart in anything as small as a 40 ever. I'm looking enviously over here at a Volvo 70 Celestial. It looks like a much more comfortable ride in the conditions we had. You know, it's still a long way before everybody gets up the river, so we'll see how the leaderboard sorts out, but I was just incredibly excited to be out there and going up against some of the best in the world on one of the greatest racetracks in the world.
Well, Jim Cooney and Samantha Grant, I'm sure they're watching at the moment at Neutral Bay, may have a prospective buyer. Would he sell?
I have no idea, I can't answer that.
It's an amazing boat.
But anyway, Callisto, James Murray, representing the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, although an American, they will win their division, Division 1, IRC 1. Smuggler second, consistent performer by Seb Bohm, and highly sprung. Mark Spring from New South Wales will be third, but a very good performance by Callisto. She was the pick of the 52-footers.
Well, the other performance that we really enjoyed was Aragon. I think they had 9 different countries represented on board. They had a terrific reception at the Summer of Tasmania when they crossed the finishing line yesterday evening. And their navigator, well, she certainly is a famous sailor, 4-time nominated for World Sailor of the Year, 6 line honours victories, and also 3 overall wins. I'm referring to Adrian Carlin. She knows all about the vagaries of the Hobart and Storm Bay and the Derwent.
No boat in this Hobart race would have finished without any issues. I think if you have, then yes, something pretty unique. The conditions, it was good. Adrian Carlin, our navigator, she broke up our race into sort of 5 sections. And I guess section 1 being coming down the New South Wales coast in pretty horrendous upwind conditions, especially the sea state, which we really had to manage well to keep the boat in one piece. And then I think, the last part, which is section 5, is coming into Storm Bay and then up into the Derwent, is always a very exciting part of the race. You never really know what you can expect there, and some really unexpected things can happen breeze-wise. Even Adrienne said that in her 33 years of sailing the Hobart, what we experienced out there today, she hadn't experienced before, so that's pretty amazing. And then I guess the battle with Callisto is pretty cool. They were 30 miles ahead of us coming into Storm Bay, and they parked, and we sailed around them and then just had a really good battle all the way to the finish. Yeah, it's literally the icing on the cake is to be able to experience that coming down into the finish is pretty special. I think it's a bucket list one. I think we worked really, really well as a crew together. It's a really tough race, and just to finish this race, I think is already a huge moment. We said to each other before the start of the race that we need to get there first, and we need to get there in one piece. So that was priority number one. But we experienced so many nice moments as a crew. We worked really well together. It's a family and friends boat, along with some professional sailors as well. Yeah, that mix really stands out, and it's not something I do every day, but I enjoyed every minute of it, even the tough ones.
Yes, a 3-time Olympian, Carolyn Brower, and World Sailor of the Year, World Female Sailor of the Year, and she was on board with Adrienne Carlin. So my apologies there to everyone, but we are going to hear now from Adrienne Carlin, the magnificent Australian navigator.
The great thing about doing a different race each time with a different team is that there's various strengths and weaknesses, or otherwise people who've done this race lots of times before. So I really enjoy always sailing with an international team because it's new, and so I just said this time, I had to sort of break it down because a lot of the people on board had never done the race before. So I just split it up into 5 bits to start. The first part down the New South Wales coast, Bass Strait, Tassie coast, and then the finishing line. And the funny thing was, as we were going along, people would go, is this 5A or 5B or 5C? Because as you remembered, just even the part from Tasman Light, there's so much to Storm Bay, there's so much to the Derwent, and this year was, people will say, oh, it was a Hobart like no other, but to me it was a classic Hobart, and, it's a Dutch team or a Netherlands team, and, they have up there in the North Sea, they have some incredible weather, but they really wanted to see a Hobart, and I said, well, you got one, particularly the first night, but also so much about the Hobart is the changeable conditions, because in Storm Bay today, it was really quite puzzling, all the competing different breezes that were coming from everywhere, so, it keeps you on your toes. No 2 races in their entirety are the same. I did say to them, particularly the international teams, because they might not come back again, it's such a big effort for them to bring the boat down. At the start, just look around you, see all those people on the cliffs, see all the 4 start lines and all the boats, and just take it all in because it's an incredible moment. And then when you get here to Hobart, it's so unique, in many parts of the world that, you have this special environment in which to sail.
Yes, and back in 2004, she was navigator, all-male crew on Cheyenne, the catamaran, and they set a new around-the-world record. Around the world in 58 days, Peter. That's a pretty fast run. But clearly, I should have been having a bit more coffee to sharpen up my brain. And I must say, I am in awe of our producer and director, Dave Flower. I don't think he gets any sleep, but I know we all survive on coffee, including Peter Shipway.
Plenty of people flock to Hobart for the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race. Here at Hobart Coffee Roasters, Donnie, how busy does it get for you at this time of year?
Probably our busiest time of year, to be honest, with the combination of the tourism and the events that are on, and it's all systems go from start to finish.
And how do you manage? The team works really well here. Everyone loves the coffee here at Hobart Coffee Roast.
It's all about, as you said, the teamwork. We have to heavily structure, obviously, and honestly, just hopefully good management.
You love the coffee. Is the coffee from here? You make it here?
No, coffee comes in from Melbourne. We roast as much as we can on ourselves, and just a lot of it at the time of year.
Perfect. Thanks for chatting with us, Donnie, and thanks for fueling up everyone for their coffee, caffeine here.
All right, see you all next year.
Yes, well, I had my cup of tea this morning, Peter. Which way did you go?
I had a cup of coffee.
You did have your coffee, yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably where I went
Just
wrong.
a flat white. Oh, you have oatmeal and almond milk and all that.
No, when I
rubbish,
have my
don't you?
coffee, I don't have the caffeine. I go.
Oh.
It's a decaf, flat white, extra hot with oatmeal and a little bit of honey, if possible. And it's very confusing. Always very confusing for the waiter or the barista. But yeah, all good fun. Well, I've got to say we are at the dock of the bay here in Hobart, and this whole area is controlled by one of our major partners, Tasports. Yeah, well, I'm just looking at that breeze at the moment. It is starting to pick up a little bit, and maybe it is swinging around to give some support for those boats. So don't write off the boats that have been stranded, Peter, in Storm Bay. It looks as though the breeze is picking up a little. But
Yeah.
How do you see things at the moment?
Well, if you go off the computer, Crux is still leading because she's 70 odd miles to go, so she's got a long way to go to Tasman, and then if the southerly comes in, well, she could be on the wind, and that will knock her chance about. But at the moment, you'd have to say that, well, she's the leader, and so you'd have to rely on that. But one thing I probably forgot to mention, Gordon, regarding the double-handers compared to fully
These are a
crewed.
couple of boats, by the way, that
Yeah.
are closing on the finishing line here, so we'll keep an eye on them, Peter.
Yes. Well, there's breeze there. There's a few little white caps, so that's good news for the. Well, you've got to get into the river. I mean, this is Veloce and Mondo.
Now, do you know what veloce means?
I do, but I don't. I'm not going to tell you. You tell me.
It's Italian for fast and quick, and they are going quick at the moment. Veloce.
Well, I'm sure they could go a lot faster, but anyway, they're moving. That's the main thing. We're in Min River, and Love and War and a few boats that just outside the river are not moving at all. But I'll just go back to the double-handers. And one thing I probably omitted to mention, another benefit they have over the fully crewed is that they can carry lighter weight because only two crew, they've got less provisions, less stores, just less crew weight because crew, you've got to have their wet weather gear, your boots, your sea bag. So there is a little bit of a balance differential there, of course, that the fully crewed boats might be, with a crew of, say, 15 or so, they're carrying a lot of weight based on crew and bags, provisions, water, fuel, whereas the double-handers a lot less weight by definition of only two guys, but they've still got to get the job done with two guys, and it's very tough. So it's a balance, and I don't think it's become a very prevalent thing to have double-handers racing against fully crewed boats around the world, and I don't think anyone would deny the success of the two-handers in this race.
So Veloce then, as we see closing on the finishing line, Veloce from Middle Harbour Yacht Club in Sydney, Matthew Hayes in his 16th Hobart Race, Peter, and also Josh Hayes is on board. Josh manages Sydney by sail. He's a pretty smart young guy in his first Hobart race. He has a double degree in commerce and psychology. He sailed around the world, and he says Sydney Harbour, though, is still the best waterway in the world. And I reckon River Derwent is looking pretty good at the moment.
If he's a psychologist, we might have to get him in here and sort some of the yachtsmen out. But Matt Hayes, the skipper, represented Australia at the 1996 Olympics in Soling class. And I think Jenny Armstrong's on board too. Now, Jenny won a gold medal in Sydney in the 470s. I think Jenny's in the crew of Veloce.
And Steve Jarvin and Steve McConaughey were his crew at that Olympic Games.
Yes, that's correct.
That's right. Just testing you out there. Yeah, so let's...
I just had to agree with you. That was easy. You should have asked me who his crew were.
Yes, let's have a look at the standings then, Peter, at the moment, and the tracker firstly.
Well, that's the boats that are near the river or in the river. As I say, slow progress. But the breeze, looking behind us here, the flags are flying a bit more, and it's obviously bringing. Once you've got to get into the river and get around past Cape Rowell, and there's the flags flying. Oh, that's Master Lock Comanche in the foreground. You can see the winner's flag flying off one of the halyards there that's been taken out towards the bow, and that's looking towards the finishing line.
The other boat we saw there, I don't know whether we'll get a chance to see that other boat, Mondo, is Lisa Callaghan, who's the president of the Manly Yacht Club, and she's been a driving force in those Sydney 38s. So it's great to see her performing well.
Yeah, Manly and Sydney. Yeah. A real.
And there's Mondo and Veloce as they are.
There they are, almost
Taruna.
side by
They've
side.
still got a bit of sailing to go. They're at Taruna. They've got to get up to Sandy Bay, and they're still a few miles from the finish. But
wind. It's all about wind now, or lack of it. If you get the wind, you'll come home. Now, there's Mondo now. There's the Garrow. John, is that the Garrow? Is that a? Can't just.
No, I don't think.
Yeah, that's John Garrow.
Is that the John Garrow?
Yeah,
is it
they're
okay?
going to leave that to port, and they'll jibe shortly, I would think, to get. Well, they're going to trying to run really deep there to get round John Garrow. That is a mark of the course. You leave that to port, and then you've got a couple of miles to the finish here at Castray Esplanade. But he's got a good progress. She's got a conventional symmetrical spinnaker, so she can get the pole back and run nice and deep. Might have to jibe there. No, they're getting the bow down, and she'll get round there, then harden up a little bit and towards the finishing line. So her angle of attack will be a little bit better once they get round the John Garrow Shoals, a famous mark of the course.
This is a sweet moment for Lisa Callaghan and her crew. She led the Sydney 38s off the mid-Tasmanian coast last year and then broke her D2, which forced her to retire. So she was in a great position, but here she is now within the closing stages of the finish. 7 Sydney 38s in the race this year.
Okay, she's just getting around the shoulder. D2 is a part of the rigging. It's a diagonal stay that goes from the spreader up to the mast to support the mast, and really if you break that you're in all sorts of trouble, which obviously they were. So she's just leaving the John Garrow to port, and then we'll be able to set a course, I think, pretty straight towards the finishing line here at Battery Point.
I reckon there's a big audience watching at the Manly Yacht Club at the moment, Peter, on Sydney Harbour. They are celebrating their 75th anniversary. They're all about culture and youth and really encouraging females to be involved with the sport. And this race is the race for everyone. It's the people's race. And we've seen a terrific increase in female numbers, 167 in 2025, which is very encouraging, and I think that's going to just keep swelling now, particularly with Zhang Lin on Min River, the co-skipper, doing exceptionally well on handicap and still with some sort of chance of sneaking into the overall winning prize. So much female
I
representation.
think they'll get a divisional prize. I don't think they can win it, unfortunately, for Zhang. And that's the live shot of the both boats that we've got. Veloce and Mondo. They're both around the Garrow, and we'll see them probably here in about 20 minutes to 30 minutes. Just see a few little white caps on the water, not exceptional wind, but at least it's wind and moving them in the right direction.
But they're having a private war here, Peter, aren't they? Veloce, Matt Hayes completed a circumnavigation of the globe between 2018 and 2020, and he founded Sydney by Sail back in 1995, which runs performance cruising yachts. And Mondo, the 38-footer, up against the 13-metre Veloce on the left-hand side, certainly making a race of it at the moment. So I think, we've covered those two boats pretty well. I think you've summed up the situation as far as the handicap is concerned, Peter Shipway. Any final comments on what has been an eventful morning here on day 5?
Well, a lot of boats obviously arrived overnight, and a lot still to come in today. And if the sea breeze or the breeze freshens in from the south, we're going to get a lot more finishing between now and nightfall, I would anticipate. But at the moment, it's the little Crux, the little 34-foot double-hander from Sydney that's still leading. It's going to take a mammoth effort for her to win this race. She's got to be in by about 10 o'clock tonight, I'm thinking. So she's still got about 70 miles to go. Possible, but...
Can I ask you about Love and War? We had a photograph just probably 45 minutes ago.
If you're a fan of Love and War, you wouldn't want to take your eyes off the screen. You won't want to look at that.
When was that taken,
That
Peter?
was about 9:30 this morning, so about an hour and a half ago, off Cape Rowell.
Has the breeze improved down there? What speed is Love and War travelling at the moment?
She's doing a little bit better than that, but there she is. She's becalmed off the Rowell with a little wind seeker or drifter up, just to try and get moving. And that's not a sight you want to see if you're a fan of Love and War. It's a photo that was taken off a pleasure boat that was out there trying to will them home. So
yes,
yeah,
well, Grace,
frustrating.
Grace Shipway on board in her first race. What an unbelievable experience for her. And Mum is down as well, so great excitement in the Shipway family.
Or dismay looking at that photo. We shouldn't have shown it.
Well, they've done a fantastic job,
Yeah,
Peter.
look,
You know, not everyone can win.
we repeat a lot of things on this
Yeah.
show, but I think any boat that finishes, it's a credit, you know, regardless of the conditions. But to get up there and be in the bay now and almost in the river, terrific, and it's a great thrill for all the crews, that's for sure. But certainly a big thrill for BNC Minette Leon from New Caledonia. They're probably the clubhouse leader, and that may remain, I would think.
Yeah, Jan Regal and Michelle Cantin from New Caledonia. They look as though they may have stolen the big prize from all of those big guns, but the race is all about the handicap winner, and it's a double-hander at the moment that looks as though they may have taken the treasure. Well, that winds up our coverage here. We will be back at 4 o'clock this afternoon local time. Again, thank you to Peter Shipway for lending us all your expertise, and we'll look forward to your company at 4 o'clock.
This has been a Hype production.